pretty ominous music, huh? How you all doing? It's a new week. Now, this is the music to draw to, huh? Hope you're all good. Yeah, happy Monday. Doing good, thanks. So, the music's much louder at this end than it comes over the computer, because you're basically getting the music that's coming through my microphone. Yeah, today we are going to look at the écorché. What is an écorché? It's, I think écorché means flayed model or flayed person. Basically, it means to take the skin off, right? And in this particular case, the écorché is a sculpture. In fact, I have it right here. This one. You've probably seen it in the background over there. That's where it normally lives. It normally has its arms on too. This one was originally done by Houdon, and then in more recent times, an artist by the name of Scott Eaton went in. He made some revisions to it. He made some anatomical revisions that, from what I understand, they felt like, you know, with the advent of more modern medicine, etc., that we understood the body a little better. So he made some revisions, and this particular écorché he made available on his website, and it becomes available from time to time. I don't know if it's available right now, but if you're curious about this particular écorché, look up Scott Eaton and écorché, add that to the search, and you should be able to find out pretty easily whether this is available. You know, it's a substantial little maquette, and I use it. Not often, but I do use it, especially when I just want to kind of get clarity on something. Yes, I can use the CG model. It's kind of nice though, just having it handy. Anyhow, today we're going to work from this, and what I'd also want to do is at some point, I think probably after the first pose, we'll let everyone arrive. I'm going to screen share, and I'm going to show you a series of photos that I took of this écorché, and I'm just going to point out a few things, because, you know, we have these discussions with the skin on, so to speak, and I know that we have occasionally looked at anatomical studies, but I think this is going to be an interesting session. So without further ado, as I said, we'll start one pose. Just let the latecomers, you know, get here, and then we'll look. Yes, we'll look at the écorché. I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to try doing my rough-in with this, what did we say it was called? Carbothello? And then I'm going to do my tie down with my usual charcoal. I have not tested this. I'm really hoping that the charcoal sticks to the Carbothello. I think it will. It does mean though that things might be a little lighter than usual. Let's see how it goes, huh? If it's a complete disaster, I'll abandon the whole thing. But I would like to do that. Will it be okay to show those? Lulu, frankly, it's anyone's guess. Probably not. You know, they do not care for the human form. Anyway, let's have a look at this first pose. We're going to treat it like a regular 15. Okay? In fact, we're going to treat all of these poses as if we're drawing a model. Just obviously things are extremely clear as far as the anatomical relationships of things. We may not, or probably will not, get through all of these poses realistically. But I wanted to give you guys a few extras just so you have them as reference, and the likes. Can we draw aliens? And we should draw aliens, Lulu. Yes, that's what we will do. Okay, let me start the clock. Oh, wrong one. I do that not every time, but most times. Okay, I really should move the stopwatch clock away. Yeah, this grey, it's very light. Let's see how it goes. So we do have, the left leg is supporting. So we do have a hip tilt there. I'm going to go with that for now. Nice, thanks. Yeah. Very, you know, I'm going to be stating the obvious a lot today, but we can very, very clearly see the ASIS, the obliques sitting on that form. We can see that inguinal ligament kind of coming down this way. Something like that. Look at the way that the oblique, as we are to draw, the oblique comes from that point too. Okay, manubrium coming down, sternum to that little pointy thing at the end of the sternum called the xiphoid process. I know from experience that doing these type of anatomical studies straight in black charcoal can be it gets it layers up real quick. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to try this process. I normally do this with pastels. When I do my anatomy demos larger, right, twice the size of this, I normally work with that grey pastel. So this is, you could argue, like, you know, working as a substitute for that. From the manubrium, you see that sternocleidomastoid mastoid coming up this way. Our head is about there. Trapezius. Thanks for the heads up, Lulu. Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. Okay, so this clavicle is up slightly, right? This arm is raised and it's kind of coming up this way. Something like that. Head of the humerus is going to be there. So trapezius is kind of just bunching ever so slightly here, kind of like so. This one's a little bit flatter, right? Look at the way that pectoral comes across the form there. There's also a tendency to want to, because there's so much detail, right? The skin usually, we could say, softens things out. But we still want to try and find ways to simplify. Look at those serratus, just very, very clear. And as we discussed in a previous stream, coming actually from the edge of the scapula, coming around, and they're kind of sitting in this region here. Latissimus. Coming here. Then coming down the rib cage. Our oblique sitting here. And look at the way that the pectoral has actually got these subdivisions, very subtle. Right. You don't need to go crazy with it, but it is nice to kind of suggest that. Bicep coming there, and obviously our model is cut off there. The coracobrachialis is poking out there. Tricep. And bicep sitting in here. Deltoid coming from about 2/3 of the way along the clavicle. Yeah, coloured pencils will work. Lazy Turtle asks, I have a question for some discussion. How familiar would one, in your opinion, have to be with avian anatomy to say draw an angel? Would human anatomy or avian anatomy take priority in a deep dive into the wings? Look, I think that very much human anatomy would take priority. What are you ultimately looking at with avian anatomy? In that case, it's really the wing, right? And actually, if you look at this skeletal structure of the wing, it starts to look remarkably like a hand. I don't think there's a lot for you to need to study, like, you know, at least let's talk about, you know, obviously there's degrees to this, but I think you could do the study of the wing fairly handily, and then you could, you know, I would. Here's the thing: if your wing is a little bit off, no one's going to notice. If your anatomy's off, yeah, it's going to be weird, right? That would be my feeling on it. But I see Lulu's got bat wing anatomy. You could use bat wing anatomy. You see, I haven't looked. I've never drawn an angel. So I'm not sure really like what the general consensus is as far as what the design language should be for the wing anatomy of an angel. You see, my knee-jerk reaction was, you know, as you were saying, avian, but maybe there is something to the bat thing that Lulu's saying. I'm honestly not sure. I would look at how some of the masters in the past have handled it and take your cues from there, right? But yeah, thanks for the compliment on the fantastic point. The point, yeah, well, I think it is worth reiterating. If the human is off, it's going to be far more noticeable than if your wings are a little bit off. And I do think that's kind of the important takeaway, right? Barnjolf says, by the way, thanks Twitch people for checking in. Sometimes it feels like Twitch just, you know, doesn't really happen that much. Because it doesn't. Avian anatomy, the front of the chest would be more important if you look for physical things, but after angels and magical, go for human. Yeah, exactly. Yes, like obviously there's anatomical things that you want to be. If you're just drawing birds, it's a completely different conversation, obviously. The whole angel thing, I would argue, is probably open to some serious interpretation, given that it is, you know, it's kind of like a mermaid, right? In some respects, it's like, but as I said, I've literally never drawn an angel until I draw my puppy. Then I will have. Yeah, so I don't know. Sorry. Okay. Sartorius coming down. We can see it obviously so clearly, beautifully. Tensor fasciolate sitting here, we can see it quite clearly, and then right there is gluteus medius peeking its head out there. Okay, we said 15 for this, right? So let's not get too crazy. Oh yeah, look at that. Barnjolf flexing the emotes on Twitch. Nice. If I didn't you name Angel? She's Penny now. After all that. Yeah, I think Penny's just kind of, it almost feels like it'd be weird to change it now. Although I don't even call her Penny. She's usually referred to as P. Not because she's a big P or anything. She's actually, I would say, pretty much toilet trained. Haven't really had any accidents or anything. Oof, that's loose. I need to be careful. So I'm just getting some of this abdominal. You can see up here, just below the pectoral muscle, that there is two abdominal muscles sitting in here and here. They don't normally reveal themselves. It's usually the ones below the arch of the rib cage that kind of show themselves. So we don't normally draw those two, but they are there, and they literally sit right below the pectoral muscle, which you would kind of find, you know, a little bit unusual. The budget name is now canon, exactly. The obliques are good on this model. It's interesting, I don't know the exact process. And I could be wrong here, so I'm going to say this with a huge kind of caveat, or, you know, kind of asterisk next to it. But I believe when Scott remodeled this, or refined this model from the Houdon, I believe he did it in a software called ZBrush. which I'm sure a lot of you concept folks you know of, and I'm fairly sure he did. I'm going to move on to my black pencil. All right, let's give this a go. This is why the work famously will be a disaster. We're at 15 minutes. I am going to just go another 5 minutes on this. I don't necessarily need to finish this drawing or anything, but I do want to just test this black pencil process on the grey. Okay, oblique. Tensor fasciolate. I don't know, for those of you who have been following along, kind of, you know, on the reg, so to speak, if you've done much in the way of anatomy studies before, but there is certainly value to it. I generally would advise, even though I'm doing it here in charcoal, my advice would be to work in graphite maybe, or something that's a little bit easier to do iterations, because you're going to probably end up wanting to make changes and to refine things, and the charcoal's just incredibly gets dirty quick, yeah. That's showing up quite nicely against the grey, isn't it? It's interesting. Okay. So we've got, yeah, the deltoid, which is obviously coming down this way. Bicep sitting in here, and then obviously cut off here. The sternocleidomastoid coming up this way. You know, we've talked before about, look at the way it's separated. There's kind of like, you get this initial kind of rope-like structure coming up this way, but it's actually attached over here too. And these two ideas kind of meet up. And then trapezius coming down, which is attached at the occipital ridge back there, right, which we'll look at when we get to the back view. Same thing, sternocleidomastoid coming up this way. Is this model available digitally or only as a physical sculpture? It is available digitally. Absolutely it is. Why don't you give me a second and I'm going to find the link for you, okay? I've shared it before on here. It's worth me finding, and it's worth me sharing. Here we go. Okay. So here's the thing. You can I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to put it in the chat. Hopefully this is going to show up. Let me know if you guys can see this link. So this is a 3D model. It's essentially the same thing, and you can scroll around, you can zoom in, you can buy it if you care to, but you know, you can get a lot just from this preview mode, just using it in the browser. So there's the link, play around with it. That's the one I recommend anyway. I've seen other, there's a lot of different CG models on this site. You know, Michelangelo's nose sculpture thing, you know, the eye study, like there's hundreds on here. And I would say, you know, just have a root around. You'll find ones that you like, you know. But it is a good resource, and for those who obviously don't have the physical, or even if you do have the physical, sometimes it's a lot easier to just kind of, you know, do it on the computer. All right, we'll get the idea with this. I'm not going to do this whole drawing, as I said, because there's really no point. But this is going to work nicely, I think. That deltoid coming in here. Trapezius, which is kind of bunched, as I said, right? Right in here. It's kind of bunched up a little bit. Those serratus. Oblique, meeting up with the rib cage, coming in there, etc., etc. Now let me just try one other little thing really quickly. You're just going to have to bear with me here, guys, because this is just for personal kind of, you know, just want to know for myself if this works. If I can put my tone in with this. I think that's going to work. I think that's going to work nicely. I must say, I really like the grey. All right, we'll explore this more as we go, but that's encouraging. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's thanks, Margot. Yeah, no, look, Jose, look. Use the preview. It's fine, right? Okay, I'm going to switch gears here just slightly. I'm going to move you guys over here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a second. And yeah, let's just have a little root around with. Just want to talk about a few things, and if you guys have questions as we go, you know, please ask them. Shall we put you guys back over here? All right. I guess let's start. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Sorry, this is taking me a second to get sorted. All right. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, just to have a slightly deeper dive into some of the things. I'm just going to go through a few kind of random ideas, and then if you guys have questions, you know, by all means ask them. But we talk about light and shadow. Am I using the same paper today? Yeah, I am. I'm using the newsprint. If you're asking me, yeah. Make sure the screen share is above the waistline. Look, it's a model. I'm gonna just, you know, if they strike, they're probably gonna strike me anyway. It's fine, or not strike me, but demonetize me. It's fine. It's more important that we go through some ideas. Okay. See the way the pectoral comes across here, right? And we know that it attaches to the humerus, to the outside of the humerus, actually over just kind of in this region in here. But look at this gap, right, between the pectoral muscle and the deltoid, right? Get this little triangular gap. Look for, you will actually see that as a little bit of light and tone. And you'll also notice that this is one area where the clavicle really shows itself. You know, we talked about how the clavicle, like when we did that shoulder girdle session a week back or 2 weeks back, whatever it was, and we talked about the fact that the clavicle kind of shows itself and then it kind of goes quiet again, right? So for example, we'll look at a better angle of this later, but you can see the trapezius coming down here, right? So in this region here, you barely see the clavicle. Same thing here. But you see this little pocket of shadow, and you tend to see the clavicle presents itself in this little intersection right here quite clearly. You'll see this little pocket too. You'll obviously see the little pocket of tone here from at the pit of the neck just above the manubrium. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know, and I'm going to be repeating myself many times probably while we do this, but just in the interest of getting points across. Brachioradialis, look how high it's attaching. And then it comes down. It's that beautiful transitional muscle, right? As you've heard me talk about this muscle 1,000 times probably at this point. But I think the brachioradialis is such an incredibly important muscle for the fact that it overlaps in such a beautiful way here. The two of these, but they tend to present themselves as a single idea. You don't really see the separation here. You just see this as kind of a volume. Anyway, we'll look at that more as we go. But so yeah, that's the first image. Occipital ridge, right? Look how high the trapezius starts. The occipital ridge, that's where the spine and the skull meet. That little bump at the back of your head, that's where the trapezius starts. And look at the way the trapezius comes down, meets up with the ridge of the scapula, comes along here, and the trapezius also comes to the front here, to this clavicle here. So you get this beautiful kind of shape going through the form here and up to the occipital ridge. Look at the way the sternocleidomastoid mastoid comes up and attaches behind the ear. Beautiful. Okay. There's a lot to dissect, isn't there? Once again, occipital ridge, all the way up here, the trapezius coming down, meeting up, obviously with the clavicle at the front, as we just saw, meeting up at the side with the acromion process, and then coming down this way, and then the trapezius coming down, and coming down, obviously, to this V shape here. Look at the way that at C7 and T1, cervical 7 and thoracic 1, which is the last vertebra of the neck column and the first of the rib cage, is right here. See that? C7 and T1 are right in this region here. I'm not sure if that's C7 or T1, but one of these is, anyway, this is the ballpark. The point being is, look at the way the trapezius thins out in this region, right, and reveals that vertebra there. As we go further down the form, the vertebra tend, and this model is incredibly lean, the vertebra tend to not show themselves. We think, oh, when we're looking at this ridge, we're looking at the spine. We're looking at the location of the spine. But in actual fact, because of between the multiple lumbar muscles and then the latissimus, what we're actually seeing here is kind of an indent. The spine is in there, but like what we're seeing is actually the shadow created as all of these different layers of muscle go in, which is really fascinating to me. Teres major, teres minor, infraspinatus sitting in the large portion of the scapula here, and supraspinatus is up here sitting in the ridge of the scapula. We can't see it here. We can feel it, but we can't physically see it. And you can see how the deltoid attaches to the ridge of the scapula, which is running along here, right, meeting up, and then turning into the acromion process on the side. And we've got the deltoid, the shoulder. Look how far back it starts, all the way down here, and then obviously comes back this way. So yeah, really, really fascinating, right? Obliques sitting in here, and then as we come down, we've got gluteus medius sitting in this region here, and then gluteus maximus sitting in here. And look at the way gluteus maximus, it comes around this way, and then it meets up with this is called the iliotibial tract, coming down the leg here, which actually attaches down by the knee, and the tensor fasciae latae at the front. So we've got tensor fasciae latae at the front, and then gluteus maximus meeting up, and you get this fascia type material running down the side of the leg, and it's this that makes the side of the leg feel so flat, right? Okay, I'm sorry, just catching up with chat. Okay, let's move on to the next image. Let's see what we have. Sorry. All right. We're probably not going to go through all of these. Let's see if we can find things of note. Yes, so here we can get a nice sense of it. That gluteus maximus coming around, and the tensor fasciae latae coming this way. It's actually sitting in here. I believe that's it there. And then coming down the iliotibial tract. Look at the way the latissimus muscle wraps around the front here, right? attached to the humerus. We've got another angle where we'll look at that in some more depth. But once again, this is a great angle to really see. Look at the depth that we have here of the back. The skin tends to soften a lot of these ideas out, so we need to kind of be mindful of that, you know? But fascinating. Truly fascinating. Okay, serratus, as we've talked about even during this stream, actually attached to the edge of the scapula, coming around this way and interlocking with the ribs. Here we have the obliques coming up this way. This is oblique material too. People think the oblique is just, you know, sitting in this region here, but the oblique actually runs up the form. Tricep, the two different heads of the tricep, and then connecting with connective tissue and connecting up obviously at the elbow. And the tricep actually, they, you know, one head is connected to the scapula and the other to the humerus. Fantastic. Any questions? Good, I'm glad, Jose. Yeah, it does help, right? The rotator cuff, I believe, and okay, I'm gonna have to be careful here. I don't believe that we can see the rotator cuff going on here. I believe it's underneath the deltoid. Are you talking about this view, Lulu? What on earth? The humerus beneath the triceps. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm going to keep moving, okay? Sorry, not sure. Get a sense here of the latissimus coming up and attaching to the humerus. Let's see. Really get a nice sense of the tensor fasciae latae coming down this way, right? ASIS, I've talked about the ASIS 1,000 times, but look at the way we'll have a better angle in this, but we've got rectus femoris, the front muscle of the quadriceps, right? Tensor fasciae latae and the sartorius, essentially the origin point for all of them is right here. This is why I consider the ASIS to be such an incredibly important landmark. The back view. Something between it and the humerus. Now you've got me You mean this view? Towards the elbow, down here. This right here? This is probably brachialis? The flattened area. Well, this is, if you mean this area in here, Lulu, this is this kind of connective tissue. Right, we looked at this before. Just for clarity's sake, I'm going to just pull up the, just so that there can be complete clarity. Let me pull up the Essential Anatomy app, and we'll just look at it on here too. I think it might make more sense on here because obviously everything is tonally in the same space. All right, now let's get in trouble with the app company. Okay. So you've got obviously the tricep here, and then you've got this connective tissue, or tendon. I think it's a fascia type material, but it's essentially the tendon that attaches to the tricep, to both heads of the tricep, and then comes down and obviously connects at the elbow, right? That makes sense. So that's what's going on there. And funnily enough, the same thing happens with the calf down here. It's so interesting to me how these things tend to mirror each other, right? You've got the two heads of the tricep here and here, and then this connective tendon, and down here we've got the two heads of the calf, and we've got the Achilles tendon, right? Fascinating, isn't it? The body just kind of mirroring itself, because it's functional, and it makes sense. So yeah, let me go back to the, okay. Yeah, exactly. That is why it's somewhat flattened out, because it's, yeah, it's a different material, right? Okay. Let's see. There was a couple of angles that I think are just kind of really worth having a good look at. I think this angle's kind of fascinating. We really get a sense. It is also interesting. Look how the pectoral muscle, it connects. So they say at the 5th and 6th rib. And I think that's primarily because of this region in here, where I think at this point here is probably 5th rib, and then as we come down into this region, it's like 6th rib. Feels to me like it might be going down as far as the 7th rib. But we can see that pectoral muscle actually does, has this curvature to it. It's not just flat across, which you kind of, you could potentially be forgiven for thinking. And we can see those serratus going back. Obviously we can't, the latissimus is in the way, but once again, we know it's attaching to the scapula. All right, coracobrachialis sitting in here, little muscle. Yeah, good stuff. Sorry, let me see what else would. Let's have a look at this at a slightly different angle, just for funsies. Yeah, really get the sense, that relationship of the tricep, obviously occipital ridge up here, and then the trapezius coming down, meeting up with the clavicle on this side, the chromium process there, and the ridge of the scapula on the back. And then you really see that indentation going on there. Hold on, are there fascia on the ribs as well? They look somewhat flat, like the triceps tendon area. Okay, let me pull out the app again. We'll have a look together, shall we? It's kind of like the horse leg anatomy. You suggested the lower part of the leg's basically one flange. You check that out, huh? What is the brand of this model? Kazu, it's the basically. It's the Houdon Écorché, but it's a rework of it by a guy called Scott Eaton. I'm not sure if it's available. It becomes available periodically, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason, at least from our perspective, on when it's available. I bought this about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. It just happened to be available for a short window, and then it was gone. But if you type in Scott Eaton Écorché, you should be able to at least see if it's available. There's other people that have made similar versions of this, and obviously who done initially. Okay, let's have a quick look at the. Let's have a look at this rib question that you had. Okay, let me change angle. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Let me remove this here. So, can you see there basically how this serratus kind of they just kind of come and connect to the ribs. Intercostal externus is the muscle. Maybe this is what you're seeing. And yes, as we've discussed before, but just to re-illustrate for those who are curious, if I just fade that and I fade that, hopefully. Can you see how the serratus, I've just highlighted them from the front. You see there, they have the highlight on them. If you come around, you can see how the serratus come to the back here, all the way around the form, and they actually attach to the ridge there of the scapula. I don't know if there's an easy way for me to show that, but I think you've seen it before. You can just take it as a leap of faith, but they do. They attach back to this ridge. Okay. Yeah, the app is great. When people ask me what I would recommend, it's, you know, for an anatomy book, it really just comes back to the app each time. Okay, shall we continue drawing? Is there anything else that you would like us to have a quick look at? I'm just trying to think if there's anything that's of note. I'm sure there's a lot, but once again, brachioradialis, look at the way that it comes across. It's coming from what's called the brachial ridge, and obviously attaching to the radial bone, right? So that could be a fun angle to draw. And you can see this fascia band here. We have this in a few places on the body, actually. We have it down by the feet as well. Just kind of pretty much keeps everything together, right? I think, is it this one that causes carpal tunnel? Or is there one down here? I forget. Anyway. Erectus spinae. Why am I blanking? I don't know why I'm blanking on the erectus spinae. We've discussed those before. Oh, the erectus. Yeah, we can have a look at them. Yeah, okay. We don't really see them. We don't really see them in any clear way. Well, we kind of see this is where we see them, down in this region here. Right? But this is why, and then what happens is actually they branch out, right? So they go up the body. We'll have another look at the, we'll have another look at the app real quickly. So what happens is, actually let me reset this. Okay. Latissimus, let's hide that. Right, here's erectus spinae. Oh no, these aren't. Where are the erectus spinae? Are they higher up? Or maybe they're behind. All right, what we're seeing down here is essentially, let me just hide that again, is this muscle, iliocostalis, and longissimus thoracis. The erectus spinae, I think are either deeper, not sure. You see, the point I wanted to make is these lumbar muscles, right? If we wanted to simplify the naming convention just for a second. Look at the way they branch out. There's serratus, there's more serratus, different serratus. But look how they kind of branch out like, let's get rid of the rhomboid there. See that? So, but the erectus spinae, I believe, are underneath here. Let's have a look while we're at it. I think these are erectus spinae, are they? No? Maybe we're just looking, we're calling those different things, different names. Honestly, not sure. Let's move on. Anyway, hopefully that at least answers your question on some level. Okay. Well, this is the thing, right? Which I think is important to kind of discuss. We're coming back to the idea of, sorry. Coming back to the idea here is that we got a lot of those very small, fine muscles that branch up the back, but they only really reveal themselves down at the sacrum, down in this region here. Obviously, up here we've got a lot more business going on with the trapezius, the latissimus, the muscles of the shoulder blade, etc. Right? So we need to be practical, right? We're like, it's a very fine line between how deep we go with this stuff, because, well, I don't know it all by any stretch, but I think we need to look at what's like practical functional anatomy for drawing, right? That's really, at least in my mind, that's kind of where I draw the line. All those muscles branching up, it's kind of nice to know they're there, but I have not studied them on any level because you simply can't see them, right? And I've only got so many hours in the day. All right. Yeah, Laura, I can put it in the notes, in the description of the video. But just one more time, it's Essential Anatomy 5. It's kind of expensive. I think it's like a $25 app. They have a new one out, which is, I think, more expensive, but apparently you can move everything and you can watch muscles in motion, which is fantastic. And just like, I can't get into that. I don't have enough time in the day. All right. I think, do you guys want to see, is there anything else that we want to... Does Essential Anatomy 5, is it worth it for Android? For anyone, asked Jack. It was really bad reviews on Android store, like 1 star. That's interesting, Jack. I cannot give you an answer to that. I've not tried it on Android, but I would suggest they have a basic, I think they have a free app for like the basic skeleton or something. Why don't you try downloading that and seeing if it plays nicely on your Android? But I honestly, I can't vouch for Android, I'm afraid. Maybe someone here has tried it. If they have, please, please chime in. Yeah, once again, you know, the tibia coming down this way, right, showing itself on the outside, and the fibia showing itself on the inside. This has gone kind of blurry, it's harder to see. And then we have the muscle kind of sitting and overlapping the tibia there. So we get this section of the tibia revealing itself, but there is a section of the tibia sitting underneath this muscle there. UCAT says, can you show the shoulder muscles at lowered opacity so we can see the x-ray of the collarbone, the humerus, and the shoulder blade underneath? Sure, we can have a quick look at that. Okay, let me change camera again, and then we'll get on with some drawing, huh? Okay, let's reset this. One thing that does frustrate me, find quite annoying with this app, is the oversimplification. I'm just going to hide this. The oversimplification of the deltoid. I wish they were at the very least showing the 3 different heads and how they relate to each other. Anyway, so there's our deltoid. We can see, just before we x-ray, we can see the clavicle sitting up here. We can see the acromion process that I talk so much about sitting there, which is part of the scapula, obviously, and we can see the ridge of the scapula there. So let's fade that. So you can see the humerus underneath there, sitting in there, right? You can see obviously the pectoral muscle coming down this way, meeting just a tiny bit higher than where the deltoid connects to the humerus. Fascinating. We actually, you know, we talk a lot about the acromion process. We actually have this one here called the coracoid process. If I just hide this for a sec, and let me hide that. You see this one here, the coracoid process, acromion process, coracoid process. This one's interesting because on very, very lean models, it tends to create a pocket of shadow, of tone in this area here, in my experience. And you'd be forgiven for thinking it was, because it kind of lines up with the gap of where the deltoid comes down and the pectoral comes down. We talked about that little gap, right? This coracoid process, though, can influence that and distort it sometimes, with depending on where the scapula is in relationship to it. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's a very subtle little thing. If we just hide that for a second, we start to get a better sense of the infraspinatus, supraspinatus, teres minor, or teres major and teres minor, sitting there, the four muscles of the scapula there, okay? And then latissimus coming in and connecting to the front of the humerus. You can see that right there. It's actually connected at the front. Fascinating, huh? I was 12 days into a full hip replacement and can't get to my studio. I'm so glad I was able to tune in today. That's awesome, Laura. Yeah, well, I'm guessing that they they went in behind here, behind the tensor fasciae latae, and probably cut into the iliotibial tract. We hide that. There is the great trochanter sitting in right there. Lot attaching to it, right? Vastus lateralis is there. Yeah, gluteus medius. There's a lot attaching to that point. So yeah, it's a complicated joint, isn't it? There's a lot going on. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're recovering well from that. That's complex surgery. Pretty amazing that they can go in and, you know, make it like new. There's the joint right there, head of the femur. I don't know where they make their cuts, but crazy stuff. Okay. Would it be okay if I look into entry-level free 3D anatomy apps and share on Discord? There might be something there which poses less of a risk of a copyright strike live on the stream. By all means, feel free to, Lulu. Thank you so much. Where can I find this playlist? This is just Epidemic Sounds, and I think this is the Strings Music Essentials playlist, if that's what you're talking about. Lovely stuff. Okay, we are all caught up. Let's draw, shall we? Let me go back to my regular view. So for those of you who have the reference, now we just need to decide which pose we're going to do next. Because time is moving on, and as I said, we all knew we weren't going to get to all of them. Sorry, just moving you guys back to where you were. Okay, where's our music? Oh, that list is done. Might regret this, but let's give it a go. Lulu, the armpit area showcasing the underside of the latissimus, serratus and pecs is rather cool looking. You mean the second pose that we have, right? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah, we'll now after all that talk. Let's see if we can actually draw the thing. I'm going to continue with this grey-black combo. I really, really like what's happening here. I would actually be very curious to try this all out with actual figures. We'll do that Thursday. Okay. We need something a little bit more, with a little bit more spice. Okay. All right. Let us draw. I had no idea we had so much going on under there. Well, it is interesting, isn't it, how we can very easily confuse the symptoms of a strained muscle for something far more sinister, not knowing, not knowing that there's so many little muscles that, all you need to do is tweak one of them and you feel like your world is ending, but it's just a tiny little muscle. Take care, Laura. Cheers. Yeah, there you go. A little rhomboid tweak, and you think that, it's the end for you. Okay, so head of the humerus is going to be sitting about here. This arm is going up this way. Pectoral coming down. Oblique. Like that. Abdominal wall going all the way up to below the pectoral muscles. that, yeah, pectoral coming across this way and then dipping down. Sitting in here. And then we can see that serratus as a group. I think it's much easier to think of stuff like this as a group first. It's kind of just sitting in this region, right? Coracobrachialis sitting under there. Then we got the latissimus, which are really quite voluminous, sitting in here. Bicep. Tricep, sitting in there. And now I want to buy an Écorché. You know, Jack, there's a few nice ones out there. Like this one's obviously nice, it is, but there's a few good ones out there. They're not cheap, you know. I don't remember what I paid for them. They're not outrageously expensive, but you know, I probably paid 125 for that, something like that would be my guess. I am guessing, but I think my guess is about right. So, you know, it's not just kind of like a frivolous spend, but it's also, it's not outrageous either, you know? And, you know, just from an artistic thing, it's just a lovely thing to kind of have on your desk. And I would say, if anyone's thinking of buying one and you're unsure about it, I'd be happy to, if you want to send me a link to it, I'll be happy to take a look for you and tell you. Because as I said, I've seen some that I thought were very impressive. My guess is that there's probably some that are a little bit tricky too, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. What I would avoid, because I noticed that just generally with these types of things, some people will do like 3D prints, but there's no real mindfulness behind them. They're just like churning out 3D prints, and be careful. Have you tried drawing the initial draft with interrupted lines? Oh, well, here's my problem. My problem with that, Lulu, is I'm not saying that there isn't value to it, but my feeling would be that I would lose some of my the rhythm in the drawing if I'm breaking up the line. I like to think in kind of sweeping actions, if that makes sense. think I'm going to hit this with some charcoal. Let's do it. Where do I want to start? I guess here. I think of landmarks when I do it and the rhythm comes after. Observe that I gravitate towards sharp angles. Yeah, look, you know, I'm sure there could be merit to working like that. And look, I think that you, as I've said before, I think that process is to some degree or another quite a personal thing. I'd say if that's working for you, you know, keep doing it, or try something different if you want to just kind of shake things up, you know. Try switching the order. Okay, so we've got the sartorius there, rectus femoris kind of revealing itself here. Got a horrible tangent right there from doing that. There, that's a bit better. This is one of the tricky things, you know, when you get poses or when you're doing these type of anatomical things, is things like tangents and that can find their way in. Sartorius, or asus, sorry. And we, as we said, like this whole area, we're thinking of the serratus, right? Sitting in there, all of this being serratus. I will subdivide later. The way I would describe it is as sketching a part of the outline of different volumetric shapes and letting my mind compare when filling in the blanks. Boost my proportion accuracy tenfold. I'm not even kidding. Interesting, but I'd be curious to see how your brain is working with modeling form with that process, Lulu. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, give it a go. Right, look how low down the latissimus is joining the conversation. That's where the skin really can be deceiving. Although my proportions are butchering it too, in fairness. There is that. And the bicep revealing itself in there. Ah. All right, yeah, let us know, Lula. I'd be curious to see what you're thinking. Thank you. Hopefully they're not too sharp, these edges, but, you know, get the job done. So, Corroco brachialis. Sitting in there, right? And then bicep. And then on this side, tricep. I think what we're seeing right here is just a tiny hint of the it's probably teres major. He said super unsure. Okay, yeah, even with the grey pass, things are getting muddy. Teres below, absolutely it is. Teres major and minor are below infraspinatus. I think that's teres major that we're seeing there. That right there. It's my guess, because it is a guess without rotating the model. Well, I could probably tell. Yeah, you know what? It is. Yeah, looking at the model there. That's teres major, I think. So that's such a dramatic feel to it. Thank you. All right, what are we going to do with these serratus? That's the question. I'm reluctant to just, you know, draw them all. Sorry, I'm just having to think here how I'm going to do this. It's actually quite tricky. This is actually a bit of a cheat. But I think it works. You see, when you got shapes like this, the shape language is really important. Just trying to, because you know we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different muscles there that have to work together, have to feel like they're part of the same idea, but not just be a repetition of each shape so that they become, you know, just mechanical looking. Tough. Yeah, I did cheat a little bit, but you know. Abdominal. Kind of sitting in there. They're not unacceptably repetitive due to the angle, but it's about trying to keep that, really, right? I did draw them following the form. Good observation, because we don't want to break the perspective. Although I think you could probably get away with it here, to be honest. Not necessarily critical, you know. Once again, the abdominals, want to be very careful about not being too repetitive. Trying to keep these sizes different to each other and the spacing, trying to keep the symmetry and yet keep it organic, if you know what I mean. Tricky. Sartorius. Tensa fasciolate. Gluteus medius. Then you can see it just sitting on top of the great trochanter there. All right, now make a little bit of tone. And we will call this one done. All right, let's give it a go. I think I'm going to follow the lighting structure on the model. I clearly lit it beautifully when I did it, right? And actually we can use that to help describe that rib cage too, right? And we've got this lovely core shadow coming down. We'll just meet that up there. Very nice. Okay, let's do some coloring in. just really using the material that's already on there. Don't really want to add even more. I am getting close to being done. I'm doing a lot of Bridgman studies lately, and I've been wanting to supplement branch off. Do you have any suggestions you've found useful in learning, working on more flow, rhythm? Yeah, I think you should branch off in the direction that we work on the streams, to be honest with you, Kevin. I find it's well, you're already here, so I'm not necessarily telling you anything you don't know, but I think that my approach or the approach that I'm kind of showing is very kind of different to Bridgman, and I think it's a lot more rhythmical. I would say that it's a more poetic form, if that makes sense. So maybe that's the answer for now. I don't. You know. Yeah, that would be my feeling. Okay, I am going to call it on this one because I think it's kind of where I need it to be. I think your sketch somehow looks more chiseled than the Écorché. Maybe not necessarily a good thing. I don't know. But I think it's done. At least for now, it feels like a good place to stop. So you're one of those skinless lizard men the internet's warned me about. All right. Let's not talk about that person on here. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, just check out. There's a bunch of, obviously there's a bunch of stuff. Like even just like putting the live streams to one side, you know, I've got other stuff up there which I kind of go into some of these overlapping form ideas and that. And also, you know, we're going to be doing gesture, we'll be doing gesture studies and the likes, and you know, get more rhythm into your work than maybe Bridgman's giving you. Okay, let me see of the images that we have left, because these are not quick to do, as I think is fairly obvious. We've done two essentially kind of, I want to say, front-ish views. I know the last one was kind of more angle looking up. I am tempted to go for a back view. The question is, do we do number 3? Or do we do, what is it, 4, 5, number 6? 3's the easy money. 6 is a bit more of a challenge. Okay, you guys need to chime in. We'll go with the democracy. You guys decide, 3 or 6. Oh, you know what? We're just going to do number 6. So much for the democracy. We're going to do 6 because I think it lends itself to be a bit more gestural, let's say. I do want to try and wrap up at the top of the hour. I will probably go over a few minutes. But I feel like number 6 I can walk away from with it being unfinished, and I won't feel too bad, whereas I feel like number 3 kind of needs the treatment that we just gave the last one, and we just don't really have time. That was, I don't know how long we spent on that, but was anyone looking at the clock? Was that like 40 minutes? I think in some ways number 6 is harder, but in some ways it lends itself to a more gestural kind of approach. Right? 6th. Okay. You guys tend to agree. Around 40, yes. What's around 40? Yeah, exactly, Lynn. 34 minutes. Thank you. All right. You guys are on at 34, 35. That sounds about right. Good. Okay. Yeah, that was a bit of fun. Okay, so this one, as I said, I'm still gonna work in grey, I think. We're gonna aim for like a 15. All right, that's kind of just as a loose goal. I'm gonna try and, this is loose. Luckily I have another one right here. Sorry, just this is what I'm doing, in case you're wondering. Okay. Let's do this. Yeah, I think we've got a little bit of lens distortion here too, which it's not terrible. We'll play with it. We'll just kind of embrace it. Look at the ridge of that scapula sitting right up here. Boom, right there. And really coming down this center line, at least from this angle. trapezius sitting in there. Occipital ridge sitting about there. Yeah, we are really got a lot of forced perspective here. It's fun. Head of the humerus is about here. Coming down, elbows about here. And then our forearm kind of sitting in here. Brachioradialis starting up here. See the way that we get to break the form, the symmetry. Something like that. This has turned out to be a fun session, I think. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's definitely something a little different. We have not done this before, obviously. I think it has value. So we can see that deltoid beautifully just sitting, kind of sitting here and coming down and connecting to the humerus. Very much sitting in here. It's really lovely. The triceps, obviously, as we talked about before, the two heads of the tricep, one connected to the humerus, the other to the scapula. And they kind of reveal themselves from underneath the deltoid there. The two heads sitting here and here. Okay, latissimus sitting in there. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, sorry, teres major, or is it teres minor? Sitting here, infraspinatus sitting here, and then we can see that trapezius just kind of reveal itself right there. Pectoral sitting in here. Serratus sitting in there. Latissimus. The star of the show really is this arm, isn't it? To a large degree. Deltoid, we got the bicep. Just sitting in there. I'm kind of grouping these, right? I'm not drawing them individually. I'm drawing like these three, for example. These extensors, I'm drawing this through this group of three as a group, this kind of group as a two as a group. It really helps rather than trying to draw these things individually. Look for an opportunity to simplify the form. You can always separate them out, you know. Like that, but when you're building. That's great. Good to hear. Thanks, Margo. I vote for the gluteus maximus being the star of the show. You can make a strong argument for that, Lulu, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, sacrum sitting here, going up this way. Yeah, that gluteus is powerful. Then hamstring coming down, iliotibial tract coming down this way. Yeah, like look at the shape of the gluteus, especially on the right leg. You get a real sense for it. It's amazing what the how the fat pads change the shape, really, of the actual muscle, right? Well, the hamstrings connect underneath the gluteus maximus, right? They're connected obviously to the pelvis, right? We'll look at that next time if you want, if you remind me. All right, I think I'm at a point where I need to hit this with some charcoal. And then we'll just do a pass on this and then we will call it for today. You know, you could go quite a bit more complex than I have here. I'm trying not to shortchange the pose or the you know, the situation, but I also want to try and find a balance here. You see the way that, you know, we've got the large head here and then the medial head here. I guess this is the posterior head, but these are even subdivided, right? I think you got to be really careful how you show all that without it getting too crazy. But it is nice to see the difference between them. The one thing that app is lacking, in my opinion. I'm not sure why they did that. It's a pretty major thing, I think. Actually, I'm going to just change this out. Yisham, how you doing? let's hit this. Yeah, Ishan, you're a little late to the party, my friend. Not that it really matters. Okay, there's a lot going on here. What do I want to show first? I'm really sure I won't do it justice, but I really love this kind of shape coming up this way. Then we have the lower lumbar. It's about 10:30 here. Fair enough. Yeah, nice one for showing up. Exactly what Lulu said. Okay. Gluteus. Excuse me. Hamstrings are coming out here. Not going to get into them though. That'll do. I'm actually going to add a bit of core shadow to these glutes because it will help describe form. Something like that. And look at the way that this shadow, really interesting actually. This shadow almost like a wheel of cheese. Core shadow kind of does this, this, and this. Interesting. Okay, let's tackle some of this arm. I'm going to start at the elbow. I hit the 15-minute mark, you're right. Guess what? We're going over. This is the, we're into overtime. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any very important texts from my wife, who could very well be needing me. Sorry guys, just gonna have to just check real quick. Oof. Let's see. Oh. Okay. Let's see now. We want the heads of the tricep. Sitting here. And there. So that's the brachioradialis sitting in here, right? Yeah, it's quite complex. So deltoid is sitting here. And then the bicep sitting here. Hopefully when I get into tone I can describe the form just a little bit better. Okay. Latissimus. Okay. Feel like I need to make sense of this. Okay, I need to get some tone on this. This looks like the London Underground map right now. Was my phone on stream? Oops. Thank you. Well, I'll check the stream after, see if there was anything sensitive on there. Thanks, Lily. I don't think there was. But can't hurt to be cautious, can it? Yeah, vibe being visible. I just don't know if there was anything like, you know, I don't know what anyone could possibly have seen that was, you know, that crazy. But I appreciate the concern. Okay, so exactly, Lulu, that's kind of my point. Yeah, no, it's absolutely good online practice to, but you know, honestly, like, you know, so what's going to happen? Someone's going to stalk me? Like, really? I very much doubt it. I'm not stalking material. Okay, let's see here. I need to just try and bring some kind of method to the madness with all of this, and I'm hoping a bit of tone is going to help. Just to help, you know, maybe quieten up some areas a little bit and maybe punch up a little bit here and there. Let's see. Yeah, long one tonight, Okami. Although this is the last pose and we are getting close to the end. You're not a busty Korean pop idol. This is a fair assessment of the situation. That is kind of my point. Thank you for the astute observation, Lulu. I'm offended now that you don't think that's the case. Okay. That's funny. No, the pop idol ship sailed long ago. Okay. I'll just punch this with a little bit of kneaded eraser. You know, just in the interest of covering all our bases. I'm not a Korean pop star. I know. Bait and switch, I'm afraid. You come for the Korean pop star energy and you get drawing instead. It's been my MO since the beginning. Alrighty. It's a bit of a mess. Bit of a mess, if I'm honest. But, you know, we'll call it a day. Alrighty. Nice one, Margot. Yeah, you go and stare at some mussels. Just don't stare too long at one person, because you know that could get a bit stalkery. It's a challenging session. Yes, it was. I agree, James. You're very welcome, and thank you all. Really, thanks for joining me on this Monday. I think that was a really productive session. I'm really glad we did it. Something a bit different, you know. And next week, who knows what we'll have. But what we do know is Thursday will be a regular figure drawing session. We did a male last time, right? Probably do a female again on Thursday, and we may just do that one model that we've drawn a bit lately, because her shape dynamics are a whole lot of fun, and I really want to try this grey-black combo with a model like that. Anyway, we will see. It will be a surprise, but that's what I'm guessing. Guys, thank you so much, really. Do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind, hit the like button on your way out, and maybe tell a friend. The more people we get watching, the better, right? The YouTube, by the way, Restream bot gets the YouTube chat only incomplete, just to mention it. Banjol, well, thank you for the heads up. I am not sure what I can do about that. If I'm honest, probably the best thing to do would be to switch to YouTube. Possibly, but as you wish. But I'm sorry about that. I have only so much control over these things, you know. Yes, well, Okami, 5 p.m. British Standard Time, London time, if you're wondering, on Thursday. It's always 5 p.m, Mondays and Thursdays. Okay, guys, that was good. Time to go kiss a puppy, I guess. I'll see you all later. Cheers. Bye.